How many of you have ever felt stuck, like you're working hard, but not seeing the results you want? What if I told you that the power to change your career, your mindset, and even your life is already within you? This book, You Can Work Your Own Miracles, isn't about magic tricks. It's a practical guide to unlocking your untapped potential. Napoleon Hill, the legendary author of Think and Grow Rich, argues that miracles are just the result of focused thought, disciplined action, and unwavering faith. He teaches us how to turn obstacles into stepping stones and ideas into reality. Napoleon Hill wasn't just a motivational writer. He was one of the earliest and most influential pioneers in the personal development field. At the request of Andrew Carnegie, Hill spent over 20 years interviewing and studying more than 500 of the most successful individuals of his time, including Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and Alexander Graham Bell. His research formed the foundation for his philosophy of personal achievement, which he documented in works like Think and Grow Rich 1937, one of the best-selling self-help books of all time, with over 100 million copies sold worldwide. By the time he wrote You Can Work Your Own Miracles, Hill had spent over 50 years refining his understanding of the principles that separate success from failure. In our current corporate environment of rapid change, increasing pressure, and technological disruption, Hill's principles are more relevant than ever. Many of us face unprecedented challenges that require innovative thinking and resilient mindsets. This book offers timeless wisdom that can help us: 1. Develop the mental fortitude to persist through setbacks. 2. Cultivate the creative thinking necessary for innovation. 3. Build collaborative relationships that accelerate collective success. 4. Maintain focus and purpose amidst distractions. 5. Transform obstacles into opportunities for growth. While written decades ago, the psychological principles Hill identified transcend time and technology, addressing the fundamental human challenges we still face today. To illustrate how these principles work in practice, Hill shares several powerful real-world examples that demonstrate the transformative impact of applying his success philosophy. The story of Edwin C. Barnes. When Edwin C. Barnes decided he wanted to become Thomas Edison's business partner, he faced overwhelming odds. Barnes had no money for a train ticket to meet Edison, so he traveled in a freight car, often uncomfortable and hungry. When he finally arrived at Edison's laboratory in Orange, New Jersey, he looked more like a tramp than a prospective business partner. When Barnes stood before Edison, he boldly declared, "I have come to go into business with you, Mr. Edison." Edison later recalled being impressed not by Barnes' appearance, but by the determination in his eyes, something Edison described as an almost palpable force. Edison gave Barnes a minor position, but Barnes saw this not as his final destination, but as his foot in the door. For years, Barnes performed mundane tasks while studying Edison's habits and needs. His opportunity finally came when Edison invented the dictating machine, but struggled with its distribution. Barnes recognized its potential and asked for the opportunity to sell it. Edison agreed, and Barnes' belief in both himself and the product led him to create innovative marketing strategies that made the Edison dictating machine a tremendous success. True to his original vision, Barnes eventually became Edison's actual business partner and amassed a substantial fortune. Hill uses this story to illustrate that when you know exactly what you want and are willing to persist until you get it, you activate forces both within yourself and your environment that move you toward your goal. As Hill observes, Barnes succeeded because he chose a definite goal and placed all of his energy and willpower into achieving that goal. Henry Ford and specialized knowledge during a libel lawsuit against the Chicago Tribune, which had called him an ignorant pacifist. Henry Ford was subjected to a barrage of questions designed to prove his ignorance. The opposing attorney asked questions like, how many soldiers did the British send over to subdue the rebellion in the colonies in 1776, and who was Benedict Arnold? When Ford tired of this line of questioning, he pointed at the lawyer and said, "If I should really want to answer the foolish questions you have just asked, let me remind you that I have a row of buttons on my desk. By pushing the right button, I can summon to my aid men who can answer any question I desire concerning the business to which I am devoting my efforts. Now, will you kindly tell me why I should clutter up my mind with general knowledge when I have men around me who can supply any knowledge I require?" The judge declared Ford the winner in the case, awarding him damages of 6 cents, a token victory that nonetheless made his point. Hill uses this story to demonstrate that success doesn't require encyclopedic knowledge, it requires knowing how to access the right information when needed and focusing your mental energy on your specific objectives. Ford's approach exemplified what Hill called organized knowledge, not trying to know everything, but rather organizing teams of people with complementary knowledge and skills to achieve specific purposes. Ford surrounded himself with people who possessed the specialized knowledge he needed, allowing him to focus on his vision and leadership. Are you Darby and the gold mine? Are you Darby and his uncle invested in a gold mining operation after gold was discovered on their property? They purchased machinery and began digging. The first car of ore was mined and shipped to a smelter, proving they had one of the richest mines in Colorado. More machinery was ordered as they looked forward to enormous profits. Then something unexpected happened. The gold vein disappeared. They drilled on, desperately trying to relocate the vein, but to no avail. Eventually, they decided to quit. They sold their machinery to a junk dealer for a few $100s and went home. The junk dealer called in a mining engineer who examined the mine and calculated that the vein of gold would be found just 3 feet from where the Darbys had stopped drilling. And that's exactly where it was found. The junk dealer extracted millions of dollars in ore from the mine because he sought expert advice. Darby later reflected on this experience and realized he had learned a valuable lesson about persistence. He promised himself he would never stop because of temporary defeat. He went on to become one of the most successful insurance salesmen in America, attributing his success to the lesson he learned from his mining failure. Hill uses this story to illustrate that many people give up just as they are on the brink of success. Before success comes in any man's life, Hill writes, he is sure to meet with much temporary defeat and, perhaps, some failure. When defeat overtakes a man, the easiest and most logical thing to do is to quit. That is exactly what the majority of people do. Milo C. Jones and the Power of Thought. Milo C. Jones was a farmer in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, who became completely paralyzed by illness. Unable to work physically, he might have resigned himself to poverty and dependence. Instead, he began to think about how he could continue to provide for his family. Jones recalled that his mother had a special way of preparing sausage that everyone praised. He conceived the idea of marketing Little Pig sausages using his mother's recipe. Though he couldn't move, he could direct others. He taught family members the recipe and instructed them on how to market the product. What began as a small operation on a failing farm grew into Jones' Dairy Farm, a business that made Jones a millionaire even while he remained physically incapacitated. He transformed his circumstances through the power of directed thinking and clear instructions to others. Hill uses this story to demonstrate that physical limitations need not be mental limitations. The human mind, Hill writes, knows no limitations save those which are recognized and accepted by the individual. Charles M. Schwab and the Power of Faith and Belief. Charles M. Schwab began his career as a stake driver in Andrew Carnegie's steel company. His belief in his own capabilities and his willingness to go the extra mile consistently set him apart. There was an incident where a blast furnace had stopped functioning properly, causing significant production issues. After engineers and experts failed to solve the problem, Schwab stepped forward. He examined the furnace carefully, made some calculations, and ordered specific modifications that resolved the issue. When Carnegie asked how he knew what to do, Schwab replied that he had complete faith that there was a solution, and that by focusing his mind on the problem without accepting defeat, the answer had come to him. Impressed by Schwab's initiative and problem-solving abilities, Carnegie began giving him increasing responsibilities. Schwab's belief in himself created a positive impression on others as well, attracting opportunities that might not have come to someone with less self-confidence. Eventually, Schwab rose to become president of Carnegie Steel and later U.S. Steel, with a salary exceeding $1 million annually, an unprecedented amount at that time. Hill emphasizes that Schwab's rise wasn't just due to technical knowledge, but also to his absolute faith in his abilities and his understanding of human nature. Hill writes of Schwab, he practiced faith in himself and in others, in his company, in his country, in his God, and in his own industry, an essential quality of successful people that must be cultivated. The executive's decision-making formula. Hill relates the story of a young executive who was rapidly rising through the ranks of his company. When asked about the secret to his success, the executive explained his simple formula for decision-making. When faced with a decision, he said, "I gather all available facts and information. Then I ask myself, what is the worst possible outcome if I make this decision and it proves wrong? Can I accept that consequence? If the answer is yes, I make the decision promptly and refuse to worry about it afterward." He went on to explain that he had discovered that being right 51% of the time and making decisions was far better than seeking to be right 100% of the time, but being paralyzed by indecision. Most people, he observed, fail not because they make wrong decisions, but because they make no decisions at all. The company president was so impressed with this approach that he adopted it himself and eventually promoted the young executive to a top position. Hill uses this story to illustrate how decisive action, even with imperfect information, usually leads to greater success than perfectionism that results in inaction. Dr. Elmer Gates and the sitting for ideas. Dr. Elmer Gates developed a systematic method for generating new ideas that Hill describes in detail. When faced with a difficult problem, Gates would enter his specially designed personal communication room, a soundproof chamber with controlled lighting. He would sit at a table with a writing pad, focus his mind on a specific problem, and wait. Gates would remain in this state of concentrated attention until ideas began to flow. He claimed that by sitting quietly and concentrating on a single problem, his mind would eventually make contact with what he called infinite intelligence, the universal storehouse of knowledge. Using this method, Gates generated more than 200 patents for his inventions. He became known for his ability to solve complex problems through what appeared to be flashes of inspiration, but were actually the result of his disciplined thought process. Hill uses this story to demonstrate the power of focused concentration and the ability of the human mind to access solutions that aren't immediately apparent through conventional thinking. Ideas are the beginning of all fortunes, Hill writes. Ideas are products of the imagination. Your ability to use your imagination is limited only by your development and use of it. Key takeaways. The core message of "you can work your own miracles" can be distilled into several actionable principles. 1. Thoughts become things. Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. 2. Definite purpose is essential. The man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does. 3. Faith can be developed. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. 4. Persistence trumps talent. Effort only fully releases its reward after a person refuses to quit. 5. Collaboration multiplies results. It is literally true that you can succeed best and quickest by helping others to succeed. 6. Self-direction is possible. You are the master of your destiny. You can influence, direct, and control your own environment. You can make your life what you want it to be. Call to action. I encourage each of you to implement Napoleon Hill's principles in your daily work. First, identify one significant professional goal that truly inspires you. As Hill says, cherish your visions and your dreams as they are the children of your soul, the blueprints of your ultimate achievements. Second, write it down with a specific timeline and review it daily. Hill advises, reduce your plan to writing. The moment you complete this, you will have definitely given concrete form to the intangible desire. Third, form a small mastermind group with colleagues who share complementary skills and similar ambitions. Remember Hill's insight that no individual has sufficient experience, education, native ability, and knowledge to ensure the accumulation of a great fortune without the cooperation of other people. Fourth, commit to persistent action toward your goal regardless of temporary setbacks, knowing that, as Hill writes, the majority of men meet with failure because of their lack of persistence in creating new plans to take the place of those which fail. Finally, after 30 days, reflect on how your thoughts, perceptions, and results have changed. As Hill reminds us, every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. If you found value in this summary, please consider subscribing to our channel for more insights from world-changing books.